few songs I ever heard immediately loved it. It's a great video, too. This song makes me want to hang out, smoke, drink, be frivolous, be on a boat, be on land. This song is like, it's great for every occasion. It's a great song for every occasion.
So true. That's Morgan, by the way.
It is.
Madrone Brothers. Find it on YouTube. We were just discussing Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Splash, by the way, in the chat says that he saw Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs on a plane and still walked out.
Good line. Good line. Okay, so you said Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Oh, yeah. By the way, there's this video. You haven't watched it yet, Alice, that I tweeted out. I said I condemned it. Mm-hmm. But if you guys want to see it, there's this video of these. Here, I'll play the audio. What you'll hear. No, oh, sorry. Hold on.
First, you'll play Morgan.
Hold on, Morgan. It's this video that shows this Land Rover crossing a Beverly Hills intersection with got a green light, and these dudes who are doing a street takeover kind of thing didn't see it coming as they're blowing through the red light, and it sounds like this. Two thugs splashed into the Land Rover,
wow.
And I do not think it's edifying to watch, but I think that you might think so. Check out my Twitter. Oh, there is nothing better than street takeover thugs shedding their mortal coil. I'm sorry. It is. Oh, it's the best. Is there any?
Are these like four-wheeler people? What do you mean by street takeover people?
These are mini bikes. Is there anybody other than the people who block highways when there's like people who need to be anywhere? Is there anything better than street takeover thugs getting seriously hurt? You so have it coming. You so have it coming. But there needs to be.
I like that it's like a Land Rover too.
Yeah, it is. The best thing is, but look, I would never applaud for when these whales and progressive blue-haired, short-hair thing, when they sit in the middle of the highway. I would never suggest anybody just drive the frig on with your 18-wheeler and let it ride. I would never.
Julian Phil in the chat say, Owen.
That's right. Those were two Owens, actually. I would never enjoy every bit of seeing one of these 18-wheelers just go right on through. You know what it would do? It's the whole thing, Alice. With, yesterday some Hamas people took over a college because they're celebrating because they killed some babies. So Hamas people in the colleges took over one of these halls. You go in there with 1960s police with batons and beat the holy ever bleep out of these students, so much so that they're in the hospital from 1 month to 9 months. You will end the scourge of this really quickly. And I am absolutely all for it. Especially the Hamas lovers in the colleges. And there's somebody today, by the way, found somebody in Cambridge, Mass, scraping off the picture of one of the Beavises.
If an
errant car managed to hit that person and they flew over the hood 75 feet ground and they hit the ground and died, that would be absolutely terrible, and I freaking love it.
The Gaza protesters, I just wonder, how does it feel to be in favor of absolute evil? Because there's almost too much news about the Bibas family, and I'm crushed about it, obviously, but it's almost a distraction. It's so upsetting. It reminds me of when I was at work in the middle of the day and news started to break about Sandy Hook, and it's almost too distressing, especially as a parent. It's just very hard to compartmentalize and move on with your day. And the Bibas news, it was just too much over the last couple days. I'm very much having trouble with it, and especially now that they know that they do have the 2 dead babies, but the mom's body is not there, and that one in the casket that they labeled, by the way, that she was arrested on October 7th, 2023. Right. that casket that they labeled with her name is not her, and it's unclear where she is and who's in the casket. That's an unidentified person.
Right.
So
you saw, by the way, that the caskets were locked with padlocks, and
they had to break into them
because they gave them the wrong keys.
Yeah,
as a final
final FU, and like it's like one of those things that's almost too upsetting to touch because there's just such sadism and weird sickness and twisted evil at the heart of it. Like, I understand that the IDF bombs buildings and sometimes there are children in the buildings. The IDF also tells people to get their children out of the freaking buildings beforehand, and Hamas chooses to keep them in there, which is another whole story. But it's the particular cruelty that they choose to execute. Like, if you choose to be on the side of that and protesting for that and in favor of that, then you either, and I'm trying to give the most possible benefit of the doubt here, you are either so ignorant or so evil. Like, I can't understand it. Like, you've deliberately gone out there and chosen somehow to not know anything about anything. Or you're an evil, sadistic person also.
Yes.
Like, one of the two.
Well, yes. These people are worse than the Nazis. They're worse than the Nazis. The people in Gaza are worse than Nazis. And
I mean,
they're not salvageable. And the open-air prison that they had 2.5 years ago is way too good for them. And they're vermin and they're animals. And it worries me because I am ethnically, or I am of German descent, and I don't know what my people are capable of. But I look at these people who are jumping up and down like it was a Super Bowl parade because there was a 2-year-old in a casket, and I in my mind, like we're gonna move off of this, but in my mind is truly saying, it's like if I had what's her name in front of me? What's the girl with a huge rack? Sydney Sweeney. If Sydney Sweeney was in front of me in a bikini, my mind would say, I would really love to have my hands on her breasts. I would really love to. Now, there are several things keeping that from happening. One, she will never be in front of me. 2, I'm married. 3, she has taste and she has security, etc. There's all these things. But that feeling for all straight men is a pure feeling. And I hate to say it, once again, being of German descent, but when I see these Gazans jumping up and down with their shitty music and celebrating the death of infants. You have a different
pure feeling?
I have a different pure feeling, and it has to do with deleting all of them. I hate them. They're vermin. They're not human beings. They're just... You can't have a civilization and have them. And nobody should ever say two-state solution. With these animals...
No, I'm sorry.
No. You know what? Let Bibi and the IDF go carpet bomb and destroy every single inch of the Gaza Strip. You can have the UN War Crimes Unit charge them with war crimes, and you can have whatever
the ICC or whatever.
Exactly, whatever that thing is.
That normal
and the rest
countries
of the world,
don't join.
The rest of the anti-Semitic world and everybody in colleges can, say that Bibi's a war criminal, and I'll be just fine.
Well, but doesn't it emphasize too how much Israel has been holding back?
Yes.
Because they could just blast all of these people off the face of the planet, and they haven't yet.
Right, but these people
Even
are going to bitch
so
and moan.
badly are asking for it, which is incredible to me that they continue to freaking ask for it. Like, you're gonna tell me ceasefire deal when there's that crowd whooping and hollering over dead babies? Like, it's freaking crazy to me.
They've got no good.
They don't want a ceasefire. They want to get attacked by Israel. They're asking for it.
There's no
literally.
good side. They're all bad. It's like their music sucks. Their cackling and sucks. Their women suck. The men suck. The kids suck. They all suck. Their ideology sucks. They can't manage to keep a place good. They got Gaza 20 years ago, and it was nice because the Israelis had lived there, and they ruined it. Their allegiances suck. Their leadership sucks. They absolutely just totally suck. They suck badly. They're not civilized. They're freaking animals, and whatever has to happen, I don't give a bleep.
But it's interesting because So, and I think about this because it's an interesting question to me, right? Like, it's an interesting question to everybody. You see it on the left when they accuse Trump of being Hitler, right? The underlying question to that is really, what is it that makes Holocausts happen? How do we stop one, right? How do we stop somebody from being Hitler? How do we stop slavery? How do we make sure that we're John Brown and not, a slave owner? Like, how do we get on the right side of history, as the left likes to put it, right? Like, how do we make sure that we're not Hitler? How do we make sure that we're not the bad guys? And the more history you sort of read, the more you realize that the default state of all of humanity is to be the bad guys. All of humanity.
Well, yes.
Like, when Cortez came to Mexico and Montezuma, like, they both are, right? Like, for our modern standards. And when I say our modern standards, I'm talking about a worldview, and this was obviously more so Cortez than Montezuma, but I'm talking about a worldview that was informed by Judeo-Christian values. Now, obviously, these didn't fully come to fruition in the modern sense that we have today, in terms of, like, outlawing slavery and other affronts to human dignity that we've practiced, correct? But the left has this understanding that Christianity is somehow part and parcel of the cruelty and oppression of history, but it's actually sort of the opposite. Like, people became Christian, right? And then they continued for a while to participate in the regular things that people who were Christian participated in, right? And I say Judeo-Christian values specifically. I know that upsets some people on the left because they think that Islam is the same as Judeo-Christian, and Judeo-Christian shouldn't be lumped under one umbrella while Islam is pushed out into the cold. But I truly believe that Judaism and Christianity share a common bond that Islam does not, because Islam was formed largely, Judaism and Christianity both lay claim to being the inheritors of Old Testament religion at the time of the Second Temple period,
Wow.
when that dissolved, right? So at the end of the when the Romans ended the Second Temple period effectively by destroying the temple and booting Jewish people, because they kept having revolts trying to kick out the Romans, right? Essentially, two religions rose up out of that, one of which we consider to be modern Judaism and one of which we consider to be modern Christianity. So I consider both, and both, by the way, like, and I say this trying to be like as unbiased in my assessment of this as I possibly can, like, both lay claim to being the true, quote unquote, true inheritors of what people were doing in the Old Testament, right? Both modern Judaism and modern Christianity, like, both say that they're like the religion that's the continuation of that. And you can see that, like, in Roman writings about the time, like, they considered this, like, pain in the butt Christianity that they were seeing crop up to be some kind of, like, internal Jewish argument.
Of course.
They were like, Jewish people keep causing problems because they're having all these arguments about this Christ guy. We don't know anything about it, but, like, so, like, you see that in Roman writings, right? And it's interesting because,
by the way, were the Romans especially anti-Jew?
not necessarily. In a weird sort of way, they were more anti-Christian once Christians came up, because they saw Judaism as a religion as sort of an ethnic quirk.
Okay.
Right? Whereas Christianity was professing to be, like, for everyone and converting other people.
Right.
Right? So, and the Romans were very used to going to other regions and encountering people with
course.
other religions because they conquered them all the time. And their approach to that was sort of like syncretism, where they would be like, cool, you've got gods too, we'll worship them too. But Romans were kind of into Judaism because they saw it as, like, very ancient and mysterious, and it was monotheistic, so it was sort of, like, different and special. So they were sort of fascinated by Judaism. So there were a lot of sort of, like, Roman hangers-on who thought, like, the Jewish religion was trendy, that these like Hebrews had this sort of like ancient deep thing happening, right? So they thought it was kind of cool and interesting, but they were not, but it was like for Jewish people to do. You know what I mean? They weren't like converting. I mean, among other things, to convert, you had to follow the food laws. You had to get circumcised. You had to like that was a big deal in an age before general anesthesia, that you had to be circumcised to join Judaism. Like that's like, plus like all these food, it was so much, right? Christianity did not have those barriers to entry. And it specifically said like, now this is open to everyone. But it rejected all other gods. So this like monotheism quirk of Judaism that the Romans sort of thought was like interesting and cool quickly became like an actual threat to their way of life that they did not like. Right. So they had a bit, but they didn't at first understand what was happening because they saw Christianity as like some Jewish sect, because these were both offshoots from the same milieu. Right. So I don't know, but I guess I've like diverged off the topic a bit, but I think what I think is really interesting is that we've now 2,000 years later grown up in a society where we take for granted all these underpinnings of this morality that's informing our worldview that we assume are just there. They were not there for the Romans. The Romans had no concept of human rights the way we do now. Neither did the Aztecs when Cortez showed up there. Neither, like this stuff is unique in human history. And like the badness that has happened in modern Europe and under colonization, which I'm not saying is not badness, because it is, a lot of it, pales in comparison to what pre-modern societies did to one another, to what Native Americans did to one another, to what people in continents today, you know, do to each other who are not part of the modern world. And what we see when we see this Israel-Gaza conflict is we see people who have not bought in to modern concepts of human rights, decency, life. Like this is not, and that's why I don't include it under the banner, frankly. Like, because you see that people do not have the same concepts. And I know there are Palestinian Christians, so you don't have to like DM me to tell me there are Palestinian Christians. I know they're there. They're a very tiny minority, and they suffer under Hamas as much as anybody else. So they know what I'm saying is true. But I mean, the most ancient Christians in the world live in these areas, right? And it's horribly, horribly sad that they're a tiny minority being caught up in these conflicts. But all of this, from the Bibas family to the dead Palestinian children, all of this lies at the feet of Hamas, who are not ready to be a part of modern society. And when I say modern society, I mean a Judeo-Christian values human rights society that is not something.
Just not barbarians.
I mean, sure.
I mean, if you've got mothers thrilling at the idea that their 11-year-old sons will wear suicide vests and go into Tel Aviv and blow up a pizza joint, and those mothers are thrilled that not only their son's going to be gone and dead, but that hopefully some innocent Jews will be dead. That's a different form of family right there. That is not. That's just a collection of bloodthirsty murderers. That's what that is. And there's nothing. I mean, anyway, shall we move on, Alice?
Yeah,
I feel like, by the way, I feel like
the chat is bored with me.
I feel like, well, we watched a documentary last night on the Matterhorn. To me, like intellectual northern limits, we were at cresting the top of the Matterhorn. You said you used many words, and I do not know what some of them mean, but I nodded along.
Sorry about that.
President Donald Trump called Boston Town, Massachusetts today, Alice. You know why he called Boston Town?
To tell us to get rid of illegal immigrants?
That is incorrect. He called Boston Town to talk to Team USA, who's playing in the Boston Garden today, and to...
I was just there, actually.
Well, very good. Very good.
I was in North Station today. The slow walkers were out in force.
Yeah. I've got something to say about that. But so yes, Team USA today played Team 51st States, or they're going to, and Trump called the coach, and the coach brought the phone into the where the players were.
Well, I'll talk to the guys if they're around.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to walk into the locker room right now, and you can speak to the guys firsthand. Mr. President, can you hear me?
I can. You guys are really talented. I have great respect for hockey players. I'm a hockey fan. I love hockey. The talent, the skill that you have is crazy. And just go out and have a good time tonight. And I just want to wish you a lot of luck. You really are a skilled group of people. It's an honor to talk to you. And get out there, and there's no pressure whatsoever.
I can tell you honestly, every person in here, players, staff, management, coaches, we are all proud Americans, and we want to represent our country the best way we can and do our best to bring in a win tonight. Thank you again on behalf of everybody.
You just go out and have a good time. You're going to win. And we love America. And we love you guys. We'll be watching tonight. Bring it on.
Thank you.
Do you think that tonight, I don't know when it starts, probably has already started. I don't know, the moment the puck drops, do you think there's going to be Americans punching Canadians on the ice pretty much immediately?
Yeah. By the way, the people who run whatever this event is, however many nations, or what is this thing? This tournament that they're in? Do you even know what it's called?
Yeah, it's the world. I don't know what it's called.
It's not like it's some like special.
It's
like,
instead of having an all-star game, I think, which is terrible. Yeah,
like,
but people love it.
No, I know people love it, but like, were you gonna watch it before all this happened?
No.
Is there a chance you'll turn it on
There's
now?
a chance now, yes.
Right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the people who make this event have got to be salivating that all this is happening. Ever since the moment when the Canadians booed the U.S. national anthem and all this drama started and everybody got all excited about this, this is like the best thing going. I do feel that Trump, the like kind of wrestling promotional guy, like, senses that this is fun and good and is playing this up on purpose.
Oh, totally. This is precisely his wheelhouse.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like fun. And do you know when like there's a big sporting event and the mayors of the city like have beef on Twitter trying to like do a thing? Like, I feel like it's like that and it's goofy.
But that's goofy and fake. The Trump thing,
well, the
wants
Canadians
to see
really
fights.
do hate us, but that's real.
Trump will watch hockey fights tonight and be happy and possibly tweet about them.
We might even watch it. Maybe I'll put it on when we get out of here. What time is it even on? Does anyone even know? I don't even know. I watched so many sports. I was literally in the TD Garden and there's so many people. I was like annoyed, but it was so that explains that. Who knew? Well, there you go.
Here.
By the way, I have so much jealousy that we're not at CPAC right now. Remember, we went back in 2015. This is our 10-year anniversary of being at CPAC, actually, right now. Right now. I'm jealous because, like, all the energy is back. For a while, this event was, like, dead and persona non grata and only weirdos. Wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But now it's back.
It is.
Elon's there in sunglasses.
Well, right, but like
chainsaws.
the royalty, including the like gorgeous conservative swans who were there 10 years ago. There's been total turnover. They are gone, except for a couple like Katie Pavlich. They are gone. There are new people in town who may or may not be hooking up with other convention goers. And yeah, I mean, Trump has totally owned this place. And 10 years ago when we went there, didn't they want us to say that? I think I wrote that Scott Walker was like hot, but Rand Paul won the day, and all I did is denigrate Trump. He walked right past us. Were you there when he walked past us?
Yeah, because he like didn't shake people's hands.
No,
he wrote a whole thing about how he couldn't ever be president because he like doesn't like people. And
doesn't like people, and his security was like, clear the way for Mr. Trump. Clear the way for Mr. Trump. You're like, dude. But that's a totally new reality. It's funny. The only person who was there, who came in the elevator where I was in, who is relevant or would be relevant now, was the previous incarnation of Trump, Sarah Palin. Because
she had, the year that we were there, a very well received speech. actually, all about like veterans and stuff. It was maybe her like last big like really positive moment.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because CPAC obviously has not been the event it once was for a long time. Although the energy right now that I'm seeing on Twitter and other places is really interesting. Like maybe it's on the way back. And like you say, like it was a different world in 2015 when we were there because nobody was taking Trump seriously. He'd like publicly played with running in 2012. He'd publicly played with running in the 90s as an independent. You know, the list goes on. But it's interesting because, you know, Rand and Ron Paul have always done very well at CPAC. That's totally like my jam. I voted for Ron Paul twice in Republican primaries in my life since I could vote. I like that. Rand Paul, did you see that he like sort of glowingly endorsed Trump on Twitter? He kind of came out and said like, look, you know, a lot of you noticed that I didn't during the election like really strongly come out for Trump. But you know what it was that turned him over? And this is interesting to me, was the Ukraine stuff. And he said essentially like, which is interesting because it's the opposite of the conventional wisdom everywhere, right? Is he said like what turned me on this and is making me like full-throatedly endorse him right now is saying like I'm so glad to see him stand up to these warmongers and people who just want to see us be in endless war and all this stuff. And like,
why are the decisions of this body so awful? Because there's a printing press. I had a conversation with one of my Democrat colleagues and he said, I said, we have to make a choice. You've got to decide whether you want to help the poor in our country or want to help the poor in Ukraine or help whoever you're paying in Ukraine. And he says, we shouldn't have to make a choice. Well, it's like, you do have to make a choice. The fact that you think you don't have to make a choice is why we're $36 trillion in the hole. You have to make choices. Which comes first, Ukraine or America? You can't do both. Because we don't have enough money. We only have enough taxes coming in to pay for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps. Everything else is borrowed. So maybe able-bodied people need to go back to work. Maybe there needs to be a work requirement. Maybe, for goodness sakes, food stamps shouldn't buy sugar drinks, chips, ding-dongs, and Twinkies.
Yeah, and I think like we take in $4.5 trillion each year for receipts for taxes, and we're spending like $7 trillion. So every year we're overspending.
yeah.
It's
The last time we had a surplus was back in the 90s when Clinton had a Republican Congress. Like, that's it. That's all we have. We've only run deficits. And I don't know, what do you think about this thing that they're saying now?
the Doge dividend.
The Doge dividend, right? That,
I
like,
don't know
we're
how
gonna
much of this stuff is even happening with Doge. I don't even know. Half the stuff he walks back. I mean, I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad he's.
And his sunglasses with his
I think that
chainsaw.
I think Doge needs oversight from somebody without
So
a
for
sense
those
of humor.
of you, if you didn't follow the Doge dividend talk, there's been talk that they're going to use the savings for Doge to send checks to Americans again, which a lot of people think that a big part of the reason Trump got elected is he signed a bunch of checks to people during COVID that they still remember.
Well, he didn't get reelected afterwards, so I don't think it's. I don't think that's true.
Well, he got reelected now. And like,
Yeah.
But like reporters and people who have talked to, especially like lower income Americans, have found that they mention that Trump gave me a check. You know, like they remember that specifically. So it's interesting. And I think Trump thinks that makes a difference, giving people a check with your name on it. And I think that
Definitely. I can't believe
Mike Johnson said like there's not going to be a Doge dividend. We have to pay down the national debt.
Right.
We have to, try and chip away at the deficit. But Elon Musk then came out afterwards and said Trump wants the Doge dividends, so there's a very strong likelihood that there's going to be a Doge dividend, which I hope, like the COVID checks, it's based on the number of children you have.
then we're for it. Absolutely.
Although, I mean, if I'm being honest and not using my emotional
we do not
lizard
deserve
brain,
it. I can tell you that. But yes, we will take it in a second.
my emotional lizard brain, if I'm not using that, then I do kind of think we should try and just cut the spending in general. But Yeah, or you can just lower our taxes, something like that, because we're about to file them, and I think we're probably going to owe, which I don't love, but, whatever. It's fascinating to see it happen. The other thing with Elon is that, and we kind of stayed away from the Ashley St. Clair story largely. We didn't get too into it. Anyway, this is this conservative influencer that's having Trump's baby and
Elon's baby.
Or sorry, not sorry.
Yes,
I'm too tired. Having Elon's baby,
right.
And she made all this stuff public about Elon's baby and all these things. She hasn't really been acknowledged, but it's been a whole thing. So I kind of think Elon is starting to find out why people try to not have too many baby mamas at one time, because it can cost you some drama in your life. And Grimes has now learned from Ashley St. Clair that the way to get Elon's attention is to make stuff public on Twitter where he pays attention to.
Right.
And Grimes, his ex with whom he shares X, and another kid, I think, as well. I think 2 kids.
I guess so.
And remember I mentioned, I think the fact that he takes him everywhere is like some kind of strange custody thing. Grimes tweeted out today, please respond about our child's medical crisis. I am sorry to do this publicly, but it is no longer acceptable to ignore this situation. This requires immediate attention. If you don't want to talk to me, can you please designate or hire someone who can so that we can move forward on solving this? This is urgent, Elon.
Is this the trans kid?
No, that's his first wife.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying, though, is this is an issue of, I understand you want to repopulate the earth with all of your super genius, semi-autistic babies or whatever. I get it. That's great. Noble goal. Awesome. We'll all be better off for it. But there are disadvantages that come with having a bunch of exes raising your kids alone and causing drama in your life.
Yes.
Including trans kid, including this, including Ashley St. Clair, there's other problems that come with that. Then Grimes tweeted, I'm not giving any details, but he won't respond to texts, calls, or emails and has skipped every meeting, and our child will suffer lifelong impairment if he doesn't respond ASAP, so I need him to effing respond, and if I have to apply public pressure, then I guess that's where we are at.
Yeah.
So this is like the Elon baby mama strategy is now to just cause Twitter drama in order to get his attention to deal with issues.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And, that seems like, God knows. He's a madman. But then again, all these women slept with this guy who's obviously a little tapped. So I did find it interesting that over the weekend, people, when these hosts mentioned that reluctantly that Trump's poll numbers were good and
all these measures are popular he's doing
is that these leftist media types all said, but Elon's not polling well. And I think that's interesting, as if they're trying to tell us that it's absolutely normal for there to be polling about a captain of industry. What is that? Who cares if Elon's not polling well? He's the president. Elon's not going to poll well. He's firing a whole bunch of people. He's weird. His kid rubbed his nose material on
how is Ron Klain polling, by the way?
Yeah. It's
so odd to go after these positions that aren't even confirmed by anyone. By the way, Kash Patel.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
That we love. I want to see Adam Schiff incarcerated.
By the way, you know who we owe all of this to?
Project 2025?
No, Chuck Schumer. And the fact that we only need 51 votes to confirm because they got rid of the filibuster on confirmation.
Well, we owe that to Harry Reid, I think.
Oh, Harry Reid, sorry.
Yeah.
Former Democratic leader, sorry. Harry Reid, right. But the Democrats is my point, I guess.
Right.
But we owe all of that to them because without them, there'd be no Pam Bondi, no Kash Patel, no JFK, no RFK Jr. No Tulsi Gabbard. That's them. They did this. They told us that they needed to get rid of the filibuster in order to have this, and now we've got it. So congrats to you guys.
Now we have our Merrick Garland going after their guys.
Right.
This is what they wanted. I think it's fine. I want to see as many Democrats and corrupted FBI people in jail in perp as possible. Kash Patel seems to me to be a madman, so let's do it. Trump had and this is a good Lexington tie-in, Alice.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever heard of Prince Estabrook?
Of course, the black man who died at the Battle of Lexington.
There you go. Just
I know that.
Just feet from your house.
Feet.
Just go with it.
Okay. I know all about this.
So it's
Prince was his first name, by the way. He wasn't a prince. I'm just saying because that confused me as a child.
Much like the Purple Rain guy. It was just his first name. And so Trump had Black History Month event at the White House. Tiger Woods showed up with his Medal of Freedom, which he got from another president, I think. And he talked for a few seconds. And the room was rowdy and boisterous, just the way Trump likes it. The room was filled with young black Trumpers.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I cannot imagine what all these people in the room have their own cameras. We're doing selfies. We're doing live streams. That is such a horrifically damaging thing for the Democrats and their media. It is, you do not want to see a jam-packed room full of normal people who are black people having a ball with Donald Trump. But they did, and he loves them. Obviously, he's having a great time.
The last administration tried to reduce all of American history to a single year, 1619. But under our administration, we honor the indispensable role black Americans have always played in the immortal cause of another date, 1776. We like 1776.
April 19th.
In the very first skirmish of the Revolutionary War at Lexington Green, an enslaved black man named Prince Estabrook. You know Prince Estabrook? Yeah. Answered history's call and fought as the Minutemen alongside the other patriots of the very small Massachusetts town. Couldn't protect itself, but they did a good job. Prince was wounded in the early morning battle, becoming not only the first African-American soldier to fight in the Revolution, but among the very first Americans to spill their blood. One of the first in the nation to spill blood in that very, very tough time. Soon Estabrook joined the Continental Army and ultimately won his own freedom along with that of his fellow Americans. His legacy will endure, and we're very proud to honor him today. It's a very important day in our country, and we honor him. First person to spill blood happened to be Tim Estabrook. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we will be including the statue of Prince Estabrook in our new National Garden of American Heroes. We're going to be doing a garden of American heroes. And now that I think of it, I must tell you, sadly, most of them, I guess all of them are not with us any longer. I was going to put Tiger in the garden, but maybe you don't want to be there. I maybe should wait a little bit, huh? Like about 50, I think I'm going to wait about 50 years, all right? But Tiger's going to make it, okay? But I'm a little afraid to tell him yes, because he'd be the only one that's living. I don't know, Tiger. Tiger's rejecting that offer, right? Under the executive order I signed last month, this new beautiful outdoor statue park. It's going to be a statue park. It's going to be unbelievable. We're picking the final sites now. It's between various states that want it very badly.
So it includes...
It's funny to me that he calls the American Revolution a very tough time. By the way, Crispus Attucks left in the dust.
Well, no, there's a whole bunch of people, but I think he was left in the dust. But Kobe's going to be in there, a statue of Kobe Bryant.
But it is interesting,
Aretha
too.
Franklin,
Is
Jackie
the
Robinson.
symbolism lost on anyone, by the way, that this is a park of statues, specifically?
Yeah.
After all the stuff about statues the last few years. It's fascinating, including like taking down statues that black people funded, like freed slaves funded,
Right. Can you imagine that?
Including hideous statues of Martin Luther King Jr., including hideous statues of what's the one with like the Afro comb?
Yeah.
That
Oh my
they had?
goodness.
That was embarrassing. Like, yeah, there should
So,
be there should
a
be
bunch of-
statues,
a bunch
and
of-
there should be statues that honor great Americans, including African Americans who've done real stuff, and Black Americans should have real people to look up to who did real things,
Yes.
and
Yes.
not
Like Queen Latifah.
Stop.
But like, to have
dearth.
Park Square, in Park Square in Boston, and this happened a couple other places, to have this a statue up there that was paid for by freed slaves taken down by some white kids like Owen in Emerson College. What 2020 was the most stupid year in the history of this country.
Yeah, but
Worse
I
than
mean,
1812.
But like I say, it's such a disservice to Black kids, and I'm so glad for so many people that Trump takes seriously the calling to like make America inspirational and honor great Americans. Estabrook Elementary School in Lexington, Massachusetts, by the way, great elementary school named after Prince Estabrook. I shudder to think what's going on in Lexington, Massachusetts right now. I don't know if they think they should like rename the elementary school and start over now that Trump knows who Prince Estabrook is. I don't know if Prince Estabrook is going to suddenly become problematic in some way. Who knows? I'm sure they'll find some problem with it. But yeah, Battle of Lexington, they honor it every year. There was always a reenactor who played Prince Estabrook too, by the way.
Yeah, we went to one of those. I was very angry at fat dudes like me on ladders blocking. Guys, if you're going, let the kids be up front, all right? Stupid ladder. I want to see the first. Idiots. Ugh, all right. Ready, Albie?
I'm ready.
Was that mildly sexy?
I don't know, was it? It wasn't trying to be.
Here we go.
All right, let's go.
Tom, I'm sure you can relate, but the Democratic Party leaders remind me of when we were kids and we would throw house parties when our parents were away for the weekend.
Yep.
And then we would encourage them to take their time coming home so that we had enough time to clean the house and get things back in order so that they wouldn't find out what happened. And I feel like that's what the Democratic Party is doing right now with this resistance to Doge. They're scurrying. They're trying to come up with excuses of where the money went. They're trying to get Doge to leave them alone because they don't want to be caught. They don't want the parents to walk in. They don't want JD around. They don't want Elon around. They definitely don't want President Trump around because they will be exposed. And they've already started to be exposed. And people are starting to realize, hey, there's a lot of fraud that was going on right now. And, you know, why was this money being spent on countries and programs that had no business getting our money? So right now you have a bunch of kids, a bunch of juveniles on the Democratic Party who just got caught with their parents coming home early when they threw a big party and they don't know how to react. It's a beautiful thing.
And I will say, not just the Democrat Party, it's all of the Washington establishment on both sides of the aisle. They are all feeling caught out. Do you remember the Tucker Carlson? Well, it's, I guess I was about to call it a bit, but I don't know if it's a bit or just a speech that he gave. Do you remember when he did the thing where he was like saying that they're upset about Trump because their feeling is that daddy's home and he's mad and they're going to like get a spanking or whatever it was that he said that made people really upset. But it is like the Tucker Carlson bit about daddy's home. That's what it's like. So spot on, Steve.
Absolutely.
I wanted to thank you both for such a wonderfully large answer to my little question. And I appreciate that you took, 10 minutes for my little 16-second question. I did not know any of that. I don't follow a lot of people on Facebook. I actually avoid it. I only check to see whose birthday it is. And when I do that, I just click happy birthday.
Yes.
And then I move on because it's so full of ads and everything else. But thank you both. And just in the vein of your little friend there, Sue O'Connell, in case you didn't know, every Republican voter is a mentally challenged individual with a complete misunderstanding of how humanity works. That's probably a segment that she would start.
Yes.
Also, as one of your listeners thank you both again for doing what you do, and you did explain this in your last podcast. I'm still sick. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Which was the two of you you pay attention all day to articles and politics, and even though you're trying to maneuver 5 children and 2 jobs, and Tom is the radio show for 3 hours, and Alice is making the big bucks working
correct
her job, and you got to run back and forth to events and things, and then sit down with, sound cuts and everything else. Your day will come. It'll happen.
I'm not worried if it doesn't, honestly.
But we appreciate it. All of us
Yeah.
who listen to you really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very nice. We were talking about this because we did get some feedback from people outside too. And thank you everyone who took the time to weigh in, because honestly, we appreciate hearing from you guys about what's working for you and what's not. And some things can change and some things can't. We just, because like we talked about, we're literally just doing this in between our other stuff. And we love you guys for listening and for taking the time to tell us what you think about it. But it is really gratifying and fun, and we enjoy talking to you and talking to each other, and that's at the heart of it. So I don't honestly care if our day comes. I mean, obviously everything's nice, but we did it for a long time without making any money, actually putting money into it and not making any money off it. So I'm not I don't need to become a millionaire from the Burn Barrel podcast. I'm not holding out hope for some kind of big payout. It's honestly just awesome that you guys listened, and it's great to hear feedback of what you think about it and what could make it better.
No, absolutely. And it will always be, at least until the last child is 15, it will always be a bit of a garage band production. I do other things that are actually, good, tight, and whatever.
People are bailing on us for the hockey game now, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I don't blame you. But
Mark says there was a USA chant, but the classy Boston fans are not booing the 51st State's national anthem. So
here we go. Yeah, we should. But I will say another thing is that as far as that goes, what was I going to say? Okay, just with doing the podcast, we won't. We will remain. It's got to remain. This is put together. This is as so. Also, I'm going to say this in defense of us. When the kids walk in here, or the dog needs to go out, I am not happy, and I don't think it's cute. With very few exceptions. Once in a while, somebody will be cute, but I don't think it's cute. Usually we're trying to do something and we're being extorted by kids who know that we're trying to do the podcast.
On this podcast for a year.
Right, but who know that they can use this to try to get their screens back or whatever. And so I don't like it. I don't like when they walk in and don't give a bleep that we're doing. So, and that to me is, there's no other podcast ever where one of the hosts is legitimately pissed off at an interruption.
I think people like when you're pissed off.
Right. But so I don't know. I know that's probably not good programming, but it's certainly unique. There's no doubt about that. And so, yes, people can tell.
It is true. We are unpolished, not as a bit.
No, we don't. We want to be polished.
Legitimately what we are. You're getting the real thing.
I think the reason why people like Sean Ryan get popular, or why he got popular, is because he is more of a Navy SEAL, military, CIA type guy who talks to similar people, and you grow an audience through that very easily, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Definitely when you have this many military people in the world.
Yeah. So he's a pussy, in other words.
Yeah,
I intimidate the Navy SEAL crowd out there with my masculinity.
That's the way I went into it, but I pick and choose his conversations and, say, Joe Rogan's conversations by reading descriptions mostly and seeing if I would like the content. But every now and again, I'll listen to one off the cuff and find it interesting. Like, I think Joe Rogan's one with Brett Weinstein was good.
Oh, so had several, yeah.
I wouldn't have liked that. I wouldn't have liked that by the description, or thought I would have liked it rather, because of evolution and all that nonsense. That's not my bag, but that's how it gets popular. And yours probably would be exponentially more popular if Allison, obviously before the divorce nonsense, if she would have just put on that outfit. Just put on the outfit and had the OnlyFans. I can only imagine where you guys would be right now.
Which outfit?
The Santa Claus one, maybe?
Or the St. Pauli girl? Yeah, those were both good looking. Yeah. You know what I love about Rogan? And it actually, this is great, is that he still does some podcasts are just MMA podcasts.
He just does what he wants to do.
Yeah, he does what he wants to do because his podcast also was just about, it was edifying to him. That's it. And then people came because he's a curious guy and he asked interesting questions.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you kind of have two options, right? And I think we've picked the harder and infinitely less likely to pan out option, which is one, you can go super professional, polished, hire all the pro consultants to make sure that you sound good and get all the good guests and do all the social media stuff and the SEO and whatever they are supposed to do to climb the ladder. Or you can just do what you like to do and see if anybody else likes it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
which we've chosen that choice.
Absolutely, because we're interested. So this is like what makes us happy to talk about. And you can't, there's no way you can show up every day, especially with chaos, if you're not going to enjoy it. So this is why we do this.
The people that do that as a job.
Yes.
That's Megyn Kelly's job day to day.
Well, right.
Doing that.
But she's also like a different style.
But she's a professional, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I guess so. But
even like Ruthless is approaching it as a professional undertaking.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I do kind of like the idea that ours is it's real. I mean, I think that if you're a human being with flaws, challenges, great life experiences, and like who know that life can be a total mess, but a blessed mess, and some that we're just sharing all this stuff in front of you. I'm also sharing it just as for me as a daily log, and I know that it's someday I will not be here, and my kids will listen to it, and we'll have all that stuff, for better or worse.
I also wanted to mention, and I'm sorry,
it's okay.
The Herald wrote that those 5 positions from the JFK library were not being paid with federal money. So why were they let go? I know it's optics. I know the answer, but I'm just bringing it up.
Was anybody actually let go? I don't even know enough about this.
Also, I have a friend who lives in California. She works for the state, and she checks in on old age nursing homes. I shouldn't say that, but that's basically what she does to see if they're complying with all of the safety and all of that stuff. And her sister is a professor in the Cal State college system. And she went over for a cup of coffee, and her sister went off on this whole anti-Trump. Why are they allowing all of our information to be blah, blah, blah? And I was like, you know, when I was working at the post office under the Obama administration, there was a federal breach of my social security number by the Chinese government.
Wow.
So now somebody in China has my social security number.
Great.
And their answer to that was to give me some kind of consumer protection check online thing to see if anybody's using your number. Okay. But she went on, railed on Trump for a bunch of hours. And she ranted about Doge. And the reason why is because she reads the New York Times and she still believes it's true.
Oh.
And it's hilarious that this woman, who has a PhD, would believe anything written in the New York Times. But what I told her was, when I am a foreman in the internment camp system, and we're building internment camps, I will keep an eye out for her, and I'll watch over her when she's brought in for
That's
internment.
good. That's generous of you.
That's
nice.
What I'll do for her.
That's what family's for.
Absolutely ridiculous. So hilarious.
That's good. Very kind of you.
SpeakPipe, which is the chat program, had that message at 1:21. It was truly 2:11.
Wow, it lied.
We are, and thank you for the thoughtful message, Dr. Cheswick, but these messages have
But that's the right numbers, just in a different order.
Yes, we need to keep these messages under a minute. We do.
I like it.
I understand, Alice, but we're blasting through the hockey game now.
I know you hate to miss your hockey, Tom.
Also, I came to this podcast, I believe, from Jerry. I think I might have heard Tom on Kirk and Callahan before, and then maybe I believe I heard you on a spot with Jerry somewhere. But I also listen to this podcast now, and if Alice isn't on it, I honestly don't want to listen to it. When she takes off and goes to pick up the kids or something, I check out.
Bullshit!
And that's not a shot on Tom by any means. It's just that I like the podcast myself better when you guys are both on it, talking to each other. I wouldn't even want any interviews. If you did an interview podcast with someone, I mean, if it's one-off here and there, that's fine. But I listen to it because I want to hear you guys talking to each other.
That's good feedback.
About the topics at hand. That's the way I like it. And I'm sure that's the way everybody else likes it, too.
Well, that's good feedback.
Few of you who listen, that's the way you like it.
Well, I mean,
the rest of the world doesn't like it. That's
there are people I've talked to before I think that would be good. Well, so here's the thing about guests. We like guests. We think they're great. It certainly gives you more promotion, and guests beget guests. And like I was thinking today of having, well, it's harder for us to do now anyway because it's the seat of our pants. We don't have a set time where we can do it, and Alice can't can interviews during the day. It's very tough. I mean,
but remember when I got Scott Brown's phone number at an event and booked him, and you went viral?
Well, that was a good one, absolutely. But there are a bunch of people who I'd like to talk to much more often. I want Matt Walsh. I'd love to talk to Abe Greenwald. Batya Ungar-Sargon has a lot to say. We obviously love Bethany Mandel. There's a whole bunch of people that we do love. It is and that's one of the things that we're thinking of. As far as Alice being gone, when Alice goes to pick up the kids, I can tell you something that when I used to do it alone in the first year, that muscle of even
3 months
of doing it alone, that muscle has atrophied. And so when she is gone, it is a lot tougher immediately. Unless you guys are active on the message board, in which case that could drive the show. That makes it much easier. But yeah, it is different. It's tougher to do it without
Mark
Alice.
says the only guest he wants is Ann Coulter.
I would love to have her. I'll try to get her. We've talked to her.
We should be at CPAC right now. That's what we should be doing.
I know.
I'm so jealous that all the fun people are at CPAC waving chainsaws around and we're here.
Yeah. No, I'll try to get Ann Coulter. I love her. I've always loved her. I've always loved talking to her. We've always had... she's always been fun to talk to. I'm a Coulter guy, obviously.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
You know, one of the things I do love about this podcast is that when you're describing your domestic life, it's so many universal truths of marriage come through, and we heard one of them today. I know that in my home with Mrs. Steve that, when it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning and we both can't sleep, I always come up with a solution. And I roll over and I say, hey, honey, how about if we listen to the Megyn Kelly podcast in the middle of the night? What was that? What is that? I don't understand. If it's the middle of the night and you're both wide awake, why don't you do something that might actually help you both fall asleep afterward? Do you know what I mean?
No, planes were plummeting to the ground.
Weirdos.
Tom likes podcasts at night.
I do. I like them at night. I just let them roll.
I was awake from approximately 1:30 to maybe 4:30 or 5, and then I fell asleep for another hour before I got up to get ready.
Yeah. No, I like listening to. I've always been a talk radio guy where I always had the radio on in my bedroom.
What was the thing that we listened to that used to pretend to be a plane?
Oh, that was great.
The Red Eye, or
that was. Oh, maybe you guys remember that was overnights in WRKO, 10, 12, 15 years ago, and the guy pretended he'd be on a plane.
They'd be like,
He was really good, and then he got gobbled up by some morning show, I think.
Yeah.
He was really good. Oh, I forgot about that, Alice. That was a really good thing. But yeah, so whatever it plays. By the way, great KMS that I actually listened to today. I had time to with Bradley Stein. Do you know him? You'll like this. He's my type of guy. He's really, really good. He's a Newsmax guy, as a matter of fact, but he's...
Oh, wait, is he the one that they had trouble, like, booking with, that Newsmax
Yes.
guy? Oh, I know who that is then.
He is
I'm sorry.
fantastic.
Yeah, I do know who that is.
Great show tonight.
Oh my gosh, now I'm excited for that. Jeez,
Yeah.
why do you do this to me? All right. We gotta get going. Thank you so much for all the thoughtful chat messages. Thank you so much for all the thoughtful chats. People are updating us on the hockey score, which was 0-0 last time Tommy in New Hampshire posted it. Appreciate all you guys so much. No. Don't do that. Stop. Patreon.com/burnbarrel, burnbarrelpodcast.com. Very funny.